the Chinese market. It brings a unique pentacamera setup, an AMOLED display, a huge battery, and an upper mid-range chipset. Ours is in the midnight black color, and the Gorilla Glass back is quite reflective. The panel curves into the rounded aluminum edges, looking quite seamless. When looking at the Mi Note 10, you can't help but compare it to the Huawei P30 Pro. The resemblance here is uncanny, but unlike the P30 Pro, there's no official waterproofing, so I'd be more careful with this phone. At least you get an included silicone case, which you can use if you want some extra protection, or to flatten out that huge camera bump. Speaking of the cameras, let's get into the Note 10's 5-camera setup. Starting from the top, there's a 5-megapixel 5x telephoto cam, a 12-megapixel 2x telephoto cam, and the 108-megapixel quad-Bayer main cam. Below this setup, there's a 20-megapixel ultra-wide camera with autofocus, and a 2-megapixel macro cam. The main cam has OIS, and it uses a quad-Bayer filter, so it will output 27-megapixel photos. This results in an impressive level of detail. And since the sensor is so large, you get the benefit of a shallow depth of field, which can lead to some cool shots with natural background blur. You can also shoot in the native 108 megapixels, but these don't give you much improvement in quality over the regular ones. The numbers do sound impressive though. If you'd like to get into the specifics of the camera quality, we've actually dedicated a whole video to that topic, but the quick take is that the main cam is pretty awesome, while the other cameras are generally more middle of the road quality-wise, especially at night. They do add a ton of versatility though. Let's move on to the Mi Note 10's 6.5-inch AMOLED screen. It has a 1080p resolution and a water drop notch cutout for the selfie cam. One concern we had was that the curved edges would mean accidental screen activations when using the phone. This does sometimes happen, and the best solution is a case. Content on this display looks decently sharp at 400 ppi, and you get those deep AMOLED blacks. Brightness is great at 430 nits maximum, and 600 nits in auto mode in bright conditions. We also found that based on your color settings, you can get the colors to be quite accurate, especially in the sRGB color space. Under the display sits an optical fingerprint scanner. It's a newer version than we've seen on previous Xiaomi phones, and it's quite fast and accurate. You can also enable an always-on display to give you the time and notifications when the screen is off, and you can customize it with some cool-looking designs. The setup for audio is pretty standard for a mid-range phone. There's a bottom-firing loudspeaker, as well as a 3.5mm jack for headphones. Sound through the speaker is decent. It isn't too loud, only scoring good loudness in our test, but the output is rich, with enough bass and some clear highs and mids. Quality through headphones is solid, with plenty of volume and nice stereo separation, but some distortion. You do get FM radio on board, which is nice. Another thing you get on the Mi Note 10 is an IR blaster up at the top, which you can use to control appliances. There's 128 gigs of storage on board, though it isn't expandable through microSD, so if you need extra, you could splurge €100 more for the Note 10 Pro. At the heart of the phone is the most powerful mid-range chipset from Qualcomm, the Snapdragon 730G, along with 6 gigs of RAM. In CPU benchmarks, performance is excellent, only bested by flagship-level phones. Graphics performance is much the same story. Overall, everything feels fast and fluid, and we didn't notice any thermal throttling. However, for this price, there are people who would prefer something higher tier, like a Snapdragon 855. But I guess corners had to be cut here to make up for the high-end camera setup. With a massive 5260 mAh power pack, the Mi Note 10 was able to score a good endurance rating of 95 hours in our proprietary battery tests. We expected a bit more actually, but there's some inefficiency here. This might be addressed in a future software update. The Note 10 supports 30-watt fast charging based on USB power delivery, and the 30-watt charger comes in the box. With it, we were able to charge from 0 to 57% in half an hour, and a full charge in 65 minutes. Impressive for such a big battery. The user interface of the Mi Note 10 is Xiaomi's new MIUI 11. This is actually the first device to launch with it out of the box. However, this is based on Android 9, not the latest Android 10. All of the apps are kept on the home screen, as typical for Xiaomi. You'd have to download a different launcher to get an app drawer. You can use nature sounds for alarms and notifications. The alarms can even be set to change based on the weather or the date, giving you some useful info first thing in the morning. Another new feature here is dark mode for your menus, which will save you some energy here thanks to the OLED screen. So that's the Xiaomi Mi Note 10. It's a nice package with a beautiful design, a curved AMOLED screen, good battery life and fast charging, a high-performance chipset, and some unique and versatile cameras. Now for the nitpicks. The Note 10 costs €550 at launch, which brings it into the flagship killer price range, where phones generally have the latest flagship chipset. Also, battery life isn't too impressive, considering the size of the power pack, and we weren't crazy about some aspects of the secondary camera performance. But still, if you're looking for a camera phone or just a nice upper mid-range phone, the Mi Note 10 deserves a recommendation. But if you're after the specs for heavy gaming, or want the best battery life, there are other devices you could choose from. Thanks for watching guys, and see you next time.